Hello, this is a Grails queuekit video part 5, the last of them all. Hopefully the best of them all, because I found a load of problems and I fixed them. So I tried to show you preserved threads in I think one of the first videos and it didn't go right. And then I started looking into it, and obviously look at the time now, it's many hours later. I've realized that there was quite a few potential problems with the code as far as this preserved thread stuff goes. So to explain it a little bit better, I've introduced this new standard runnable feature, which by default now is off. But initially everything was going through the standard runnable, so it was true. And what happens when it's standard runnable is inside priority executor and enhanced priority executor, it says as it's creating the block of the what the executor is, it says is configuration standard runnable, and if it is, then launch priority blocking queue with enhanced priority comparator. But if it's not, it launches it without that comparator. So, and it's two totally very different routes, because so far as this is then concerned, is this is also declared somewhere else, and it then chooses the the runnable defined that will match for this. So the runnable that runs with this doesn't have a comparator, whereas the runnable for this does, and this is a new method, and everything is now going through the new method. So that aspect of it hadn't been tested properly, and there were some issues around it, and now it's been fixed. So typically when it hits this enhanced priority comparator, it's taken the route of report runnable, and report runnable is just a runnable. Whereas when it goes down the other route, it goes down compare runnable, but it gets a bit more confusing and complex, because I was spending some time in here, and the problem wasn't in here. It's actually in compare future task, which only happens in the case of enhanced priority executor. And that's simply because this extends comparable future task, which is what enhanced priority executor needs in order to execute is in a thread. And this also implements comparable, but they both come in as comparable runnable, and then it takes a twist and turn and it becomes a compare future task. And so the comparator for enhanced priority happens in here. They initially it was just doing this up to here, from there to here, and this bit actually had a problem. The service was the original object of the other side service, and that might be wrong, and now the problem, and even this had a problem which has been fixed now as well, which this only happens with priority. So when it goes down the new route, all of this talk about using priority preserve threads, I don't think will work for priority if you use priority blocking rather than enhanced priority blocking. But if you switch standard runnable to true, then I think both enhanced priority and priority blocking will take effect of this rule, because they go down different routes. And so for priority uses comparable runnable in the case of the new method, whereas the other one uses this, as I've shown you. But in the case of the old method, they both have their own comparators, and priority comparator is this, which uses the old method of, checking preserve limits, and enhanced priority comparator uses this, which is very similar to that, but it's just that their executors are different, and that also goes through change max pool size. And this change max pool size is some crazy stuff I've put together, but what it does is it shrinks and increases the pool size at the time of an entry, depending on what it thinks whether it should have that slot or not. So it's quite important, because it manages that spare slot, as in opening it or closing it, depending on the job. And it's quite vital that you get the formula right, otherwise it's going to open to the wrong job. And this is why I've been having some problems, and I'm hoping, touch wood, it's fixed now. So that's now fixed, and I'll roll this out to the Grails free version as well once I've done this video and finished this off. So we'll do a few tasks and I'll complete this video and call it a day as far as videos goes, and that's the plugin, everything explaining. Should have nothing on it because I've just started that application. You can see here it's done the right thing the last time. I was just doing it after the last update. So nothing going on. We'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Over the side, we should only have 2 running and 4 waiting, which we do. Or yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4 waiting. So if we launch a higher one now, and maybe another, we should get the higher one slipping in now. And there we go, it's slipped in. That is the preserved channel explained in a nutshell. I hope you've enjoyed it. So basically the rule is if you want it to be running at all times 3, then set it to 4 and have that spare channel and set, like how I've done the priorities as medium, or maybe set it to be high, and then only the highest job can take that one last channel. And then you want to set how you want to configure is depending on which route of runnable you take in the configuration, because if you take the standard runnable equals true, wherever that was in the configuration. Where is it? Standard runnable. If this was true, then the path to set the very last point of changing the priority of a report would actually be in your extended service of the plugin's queuekit user service. So if it was set to true, then your last method of override would be in here, which you would have extended, and then this becomes like a shared function that you extend and say for this report, run this check, and then you might have the same check for all of them, or some of them, and it becomes more centralized, but you still need to declare this get priority block, and you probably want to do a very basic one like this in there, because although it's required for the class, it's not going to be used for the old or the standard runnable equals true method. Whereas if you leave that configuration as false, which is the default, then the queuekit user service really doesn't take effect, and it takes an impact from your actual extended reporting service, which matches the example, the report name that you're running as such. So params example report, when that's run, it calls this service, and then it looks at the priority at the very last minute, based on the parameters as shown here. So if the from date and the to date is provided, pass them. What's the difference? If it's below 1 day, make it high, make the priority high. If it's between 1 and 8, make it, and if it's already highest, make it high. If it's medium, make it previous, make it, high. And you can just make your own rules up depending on what you think should be, and it might take a few attempts of doing it to get it right, so that it's more human judgments rather than a computer judgment of a config value which says I should be low and actually you shouldn't be low, you should be high. And this takes precedence at the very last minute before it goes to execute, as I've shown you, which happens in the comparators. So it does, in either compare runnable, which does the current service get queue priority, or in compare future task, which does the same thing. So that's that, wrapping up the video. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed all my discussions about it. If there's any issues or suggestions or enhancements, please feel free to get in touch on the website of the plugin. And that's it. Thank you. Bye bye.